Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 5, Tuesday of Introduction to Unreal Engine. I hope everybody has had a great week so far, recovering from the holiday weekend. And just to review what we did yesterday, we recreated our AI characters. So, for anybody who was not in the class, I would suggest that you remove the ones you might have created earlier in the course and recreate using kind of the same thing, which is we gave our AI defender or character a a body, which is a cylinder here, and a head. But the thing that we did differently was instead of creating the AI from an actor, we actually used this very special blueprint class called a character. So this allows us to, okay, there's London. This allows us to create AIs that have this character component, which is obviously very important when we want characters to move around in our game world. So if you have not done that already, please make sure you create a new blueprint called of the character class, and then go in here and you will have a capsule component, which we also talked about, and then just give your character a head and a body using simple geometry. So I'll go ahead and save all, and we will play the game. And we notice we do have our AIs here. I believe they also had some collision too. Yep. Okay. But they don't do anything, right? Oh, I scored a goal. They don't do anything. They're just in the game world, and we need to give them our first command, their first command. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we are going to have our AI characters go and find a location in the game world, which is basically our soccer field, and move to that location. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to remove all but one of my AIs here. So I just have this one right here. And the first thing that we need to do is we have to tell the AI where to go, right? So if we look right, let's see where this soccer ball is. We could always hard code our AI to say, okay, I want you to go to this XYZ location right here. But what if we happen to move that? So they'll still be going right here. Like, what if we moved our whole stadium? They would be going to a point that may or may not work anymore. So we need to have flexibility with creating points that we want them to go to. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new blueprint. This will be a really easy one called a patrol point. So let's right click in your blueprints folder or wherever you'd like and create a new blueprint. This will be an actor. It's basically just a simple marker. Think of it like if you're out in the ocean on a boat and you have the markers, the buoys in the water that kind of tell you different points. That's what we're building here. So this will be an actor, and I'm going to call this BP underscore patrol point. Okay, cool. So if we were to drag this in the world, can't really see much of anything, right? Because it's got nothing in it. I'll take that back out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to add a billboard. And what a billboard is, it's something that's in the game. It's like a developer's sticky note. It's a 2D image that's always front facing, and only us as developers can see it. So you never see it in the game, but it's helpful for us to be able to move things around that otherwise don't have any visibility. So what we'll do is we'll go up here to add in our components list. We'll type billboard and we'll just click right here. And I guess owning to Unreal Engine's history, it's of course a dragon, but you can change this little sprite here to anything you want, but the dragon's fine for now. Okay, so I'm going to compile, save, we'll close that. There's our AI guy. Okay, so let's drag this in here. We can press F to focus on it. Now we see we have this location. Okay, so we're getting there. So now we have a place to tell our AI to go, and I'm going to actually move it way down here so we can kind of see all this in action. So to recap, we created a very simple patrol point blueprint. We added a billboard to it just so that we can see it in the map, and then we just drag and dropped it right here. And tomorrow we'll be creating multiple patrol points so that the AI will go from one point to the next point to the next point and then back to the original. And again, you wouldn't typically see this in a soccer game, but what you would see this in is like if you've ever played any first person story based shooters or stealth missions where you have the enemies kind of go back and forth in a patrol. If you've ever played any of the Metal Gear Solid games, which are known for stealth and patrols. This is basically the fundamentals of creating a system like that. All right, so I'm just going to go delete this one so we have this one guy here. All right. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to tell the AI about the world or the 3D world. So obviously we as players can see, I can move my mouse around, I can see stuff, can go places, but the AI obviously is AI, so it doesn't have eyes and things like that. So we kind of have to code those things. And this is where a very, very important part of Unreal Engine comes into play. And this is going to be called a nav mesh. N as in Nancy, AV mesh. And it's a very special kind of mesh. You don't see it. It's not a mesh that has any kind of visible qualities. So, and again, if you let me let who just came in, Trinity in, okay. All right, cool. The gang's all here. So just like in our goal, we had a this box thing right here. So this is something that's invisible but does uh, have a purpose in the game. And for the goal, it's to detect whether the soccer ball has come through. So a nav mesh is an area in the map that tells the AI you can go here. And this will be a little easier to see once we get one in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our add to project, which is this cube that has the green plus. And just like we did when we first started our class, we went down to shapes. We could add a sphere, a cube. We are going to go to volumes, and it's usually all the way at the top, a nav mesh volume. And I wanted to point out something again, if I haven't gone over this, you'll notice there's this tooltip that says Control Alt for more. Okay, and this can give you another tip. And if you actually were to click Learn More online, that would take you to the documentation for Unreal Engine and specifically to the nav mesh bounds volume. But I'm just going to go right here, click, and it's going to create it, I guess, kind of sort of near where my mouse was. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and center this. So if you remember how we did that easily, is just to go here in the nav mesh bounds volumes details and just click here to reset it to the center. And now it's going to be here. So this is where our AI can move around in this tiny little cube, which is not a lot of space, but we're going to fix that in a moment. The first thing I want to also tell you is with your nav mesh bounds volume, if you press the P as in Patrick button on your keyboard, you will see, oh, let me go back. You will see this light up. Okay, so this is helpful because this shows you visually where your character can go. And if I moved this over here, oops, I moved the wrong thing. I moved the field. If I moved my nav mesh over here, you'll see that this green area will change. All right, so obviously we need a bigger space for our AI to play in. So what I'm going to do is with my nav mesh bounds, I'm going to increase, or I'm going to scroll down to brush settings. And I'm just going to drag this to be about the size of the field. Okay, and you'll notice again, the green updated. Okay, and I'm also going to drag the Y to the sidelines. And the Z, which is the height, we don't need a whole lot. We'll just do it a little bit. Now, obviously, if you had a game where like a superhero game where you can fly or where an AI could fly, you would need to have your mesh go way up in the air, right? But because this is the soccer field, they don't need to be able to go any higher than they can jump. Okay, so we have our nav mesh. That is a key part of Unreal Engine that tells us where we can move around. All right, save up here. And now we are going to create, bear with me here. I'm going to fix a little thing to improve connection. Until ready to load. Okay, here we go. All right, let's go back into our Defender. And also you can press P to turn all that stuff off once we have our nav mesh sort of working. So I'm going to go back to my AI Defender blueprint. And it may or may not look like something like this. Probably you have some other grayed out nodes here. But what we want to do is we need to create a variable, which we do here at the bottom left. Okay, and we're going to call this patrol points. And this is going to be a type of variable we haven't used yet. This is going to be a variable that actually makes a call to another blueprint, which was our patrol points blueprint. So if we go here to variable type, you'll notice that there's a bunch of different ones we haven't even used yet, all kinds of here. But there's also this handy search function. So let's just type patrol points, okay? And it'll bring up our list here. I'm not sure why it brought up two, but we'll click on that. And then here, we can make this an array. So do any of my programmers want to chime in and tell us what an array is? Okay, well, an array is like, think of it like an apartment building that has a mailbox for every single apartment. I think that's a good analogy. And so you might have a mailbox for apartment 0 and apartment 1 and apartment 2. And each of the mailboxes holds something specific for the people that are in that apartment. So that is what an array is. And this is going to be holding all of our patrol points. Okay. So make sure to compile and save if you haven't already. And in the details, we need to, or I'm sorry, back over here in the variables, we need to turn this eyeball on, which if you remember, that allows us to reference this variable inside the game world and make it instance editable, as we say. Okay, so let's go back to our level and we're going to select our AI character. Where is it? There it is. And now we should have, since we'll compile and save again, since we added this right here and made it instance editable, we should be able to see this here now, very or near the very top. So right, you remember here's where our location, rotation. If we scroll down a little bit, now we have this new section called patrol points. So we can start adding patrol points, right? I put one over here. I'm actually going to put another one, just maybe over here. We're not going to use that tonight, but I want to show you something else. So we have 2 patrol points in our level. If I click on my character again, and I can add, and now let me go ahead and save all. Now we should be able to click this eyedropper up. That's not compatible. So let me see. We need to take another look. Okay. Control points. We made this an array. Yep. Okay. Compile, save, and make it public. All right. And we go back to our character, which is right here. And we should be seeing our try something else. All right, so I'm gonna go and try to change the variable type to patrol point. Just try to re-add it again. This will be an array. Compile, save, get instance editable, compile, save, and go back to our character and find our patrol points. There we go. Okay. Looks like it was just having a little hiccup with the variable. So sometimes if you just change it to something else and then change it back, it'll work. So Unreal Engine does have its quirks. So we'll save all. Now, if I go to my character, you'll see that these 2 patrol points here are available right there and right there. So I can pick one of them and say, okay, go to patrol point 1. Another thing that you can do, not just with this particular blueprint, but in general in Unreal Engine, is if you have to specify something that's in the map, you can use this this eyedropper, which if you've ever used anything like a color picker in Photoshop or any kind of image editor or even Microsoft Word or Excel, and then you can come and this will, once you roll over something that's compatible with this, it will do that. So we can just pick that point right there. Okay. Go ahead and save up. So let's recap. We have a patrol point. We've told our AI character that, okay, your first point is patrol point. And now we have to actually tell the AI, okay, you've got your destination. Now you know you've got your nav mesh. You know where you're allowed to go in the game world. Now let's go over there and grab that. All right. So back here, make sure you have an event begin play in your graph. If you don't, you can right click and type event begin play. That's another way that you can get it. And what we want to do here is we want to get our patrol points array. It'll say get patrol points. And then out of here, we want to get a copy from the array. So we'll say get a copy. All right. The index should be 0. If it's not, just make sure it's 0. And then here's the magical node that we're going to want to use. It's called AI Move 2. So let's drag out here, let go of the mouse, and type AI Move 2. Okay. So let's see what we have here. We have our patrol points right here, our array. Okay. Compile. Oh, yep, that's because we have a few more things to do. So the controller means, okay, who is going to move here? And since we're inside the Defender AI, it's basically ourself. Okay. So we don't need to change that. The goal location is if we wanted to specifically say, okay, I want you to move to this specific location in the map, but we don't want to do that, remember, because we want something that's a little more flexible because maybe our map will change, our XYZ coordinates will change. And then we have an on request failed and on move finished. Oh, actually, I need to do this one. Okay. Sorry, I had the wrong node. Okay, it's AI move to, not move actor to location. Okay, but similarly, we have on success, what happens when we get there, what happens if we don't get there, and then we have some other things like we can manually type in the destination, but that's not what we want. So the pawn, we need to say, get a reference to self. Look that up. Compile, save. And let's say on success, just for testing, we'll do a print string. And we're going to say, hey, I made it. All right. Okay, copy or compile, save. And then the get, we're going to create to the target actor. So your blueprint should look a little something like this, where we're going to gather up all the patrol points that we have in the map, and right now we have 2. And then we want our AI to move there. And let's see if we can test this out. I will press play. Okay. And notice that our AI isn't moving yet. So there's a couple of other things that we need to test for that. And one is to make sure to double check our nav mesh. So if you remember, we do that by clicking on the nav mesh and press P. Okay. So it looks like for some reason our guy is stuck in this little world over here. So let's move him. Actually, let's take him out of the level, even better, and drag him back in. Okay. We got that. And then let's just kind of make sure our nav mesh is properly scaled. So I might, you can actually move your nav mesh like you can any other object. So I'm going to move this a little bit, move it down a little bit, and we'll scale it here, like about like that. Okay. And then we'll also, just to be sure, we're going to go down here to the brush, move that up a little bit, and that one. Okay. Let's see if that has helped us out. So if we press play, our guy is still not moving. So what I can tell already is that because there's this little area right here, the nav mesh, there's something going on where this character is not able to move here. And I'm not sure why it's doing that. If we move it up in the air, okay, let's see what happens when he drops down. Okay, there he goes. Oh, he kicked the ball too. Let's see if we get the success message. Okay, hey, I made it. All right, so that is one thing. That's a good thing where you have this P with the nav mesh. It can tell you visually. I'll turn it off and turn it back on. And that's another quirk of Unreal Engine is sometimes this thing, and one of the first things I learned was when I learned, I was like, hey, my character's not moving, and the person I learned from said just take this nav mesh and jiggle it a little bit, and it'll redraw it. If you notice there, when I let go, okay. And again, if you remember from yesterday, the arrow shows the direction the character's pointing. So maybe we wanted to go that way. All right, let's test this out again. Let's take a look. Actually, I'll do it in a kind of a full screen here. There goes our AI. And we made it. Awesome. Yay. Okay, so let's recap. Nav mesh is what allows AI characters to move. If we had made a nav mesh only over here, the character would have stopped or would never have moved because they're not allowed in that area. So that's great. For instance, if you have maybe you have like an RPG game or a dungeon crawler, and you want to combine specific enemies to like a certain room, you could just have a nav mesh in that room. You can also have multiple nav meshes. So you could say, I want characters to be able to move over here and on this side, but not in here. And that's again a good way of creating areas for enemies that they can only go, move back and forth in a certain zone. Then we went over here, we created a new variable called patrol points, which is really just a reference to our patrol point blueprint. And we said we use this magical AI move to, and we told it to move to the place in our map where we have our patrol points. Okay, so what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to have multiple patrol points, and we're going to have our AI character move from point 1 to point 2 to point 3, and then back to point 1, point 2, point 3, and in kind of a loop like we talked about in that you see a lot in like stealth games. All right, great job everybody tonight. We will have this recording up tomorrow for you to look at, and I'll go ahead and end the recording here.